Now, we checked if it's a directory, we checked if it's a file, we check if it exists. If all of these three don't work, now we have to go to the fact that it doesn't exist. So we say else, else, and then we echo file does not exist. And then we have to end the if condition. Okay, makes sense? Any questions about this? Okay, so the difference between elif and else is one thing. Elif, you use it if you have more conditions. So you're checking multiple ones. Else is kind of the last one you have. So like if none of them work, if none of these work, yeah, it's like else if and else, but in bash scripting, we call it elif. That's, I don't know why it's called that, but it's kind of the same thing as else if. Okay, makes sense? Any more questions? What's $1? Okay, so we said in the question, the user is going to pass a file name to the script. Do you guys remember when we talked about passing? How do we pass data to a file? When we run the script, so when we type / and then script name, we have the option to give data to the file. So here we're going to pass a file name. So let's say the user passed their file name. And then let's say they passed some numbers back. Okay. In this case, file name is going to be $1 because it's the first parameter. This is going to be $2. This is going to be $3, 4, 5. Oh, okay, I forgot that. I forgot to type that RZH. Thank you for telling me. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, it's called $1 because it's the first one. And we were expecting the user to just pass a file name. And if it's just that, it's always going to be the first one. That's why we said $1. There's other ways to get the file name. For example, we can use the read command, which prompts the user for a file name. We can save the file name as a variable, which also we can just call the variable here instead of calling the parameter. Okay, this is just one way to do it based on the question. Okay, does that make sense, Fatma? What is -e? -e checks if the file exists. That's what -e is. -f checks if the file is a file and exists. And then -d checks if it's a directory and exists. No problem. Any more questions?
Again, what is -e?
-e checks if the file exists. Or like the file exists. Doesn't matter if it's like a file or directory or whatever. I'm calling it a file, but it can be anything.
So any argument that we pass, it will check just if it exists.
Yeah, if it exists. Doesn't matter what it is.
Okay.
Okay? No problem. Any more questions? No more. All right, let's move on to the next thing then. Next, we have loops. One moment. Okay, let's start with for loops. So for loops, you can use a for loop in two ways. You can use it with like a list, or you can use it with as a counter, okay, to count something. It doesn't have to be like counting in the literal sense. You can just be using it as a counter to do something a number of times. Okay, so you don't have to count necessarily to use it. All right, So, and the syntax of a for loop when it's used in a list looks like this. You can also find it on, you can find it in lesson 8, slide number 26. All right. So you type for, and then here you're going to have to put a variable name to store the items in the list inside it. So whatever variable name, it can be I, it can be var, it can be number, it can be anything. Okay. For now, let's just go with name because that's the easiest thing to do. So for name in, and then you're going to have to give it a list to actually work with. Um, all right. That's it. You're going to have to give it a list of names so that it stores each name into the variable every time the loop does one loop. Okay. So the names can look like this. So it can be, for example, where is it? It can be Sarah, Fatma, Rawan, can be anything. Okay. So then we're done. We have the variable here, and then we have the list here. The list can also be a range of numbers. If you want to define a range of numbers, you can use this. You can do curly brackets and then do the first number of in the range, which is like, for example, 6. And then if you want to write the second number in the range, you put 2 dots, and then you write the second number, which can be 12. Stored, yes, stored inside the name variable. I'm gonna explain to you how it's gonna work when I'm done writing the entire like loop. Okay. So now we have for name in these three names. We want to do, this is where do is used. And then let's say we want to, for example, echo my name is, and then we're going to do $name because we're accessing this variable. Okay, this is why we have $name here, because every time it loops, we want to put the name here like each time. All right. And then after you're done writing all your commands, you can put as many commands here, by the way. It doesn't have to be just echo. You can put ls-l. You can put, for example, you can grab the name. It can be anything, okay? But for now, let's just stick to echo because it's the easiest to see. And then, so now that you're done writing, you just do done. Okay, so how is this loop gonna work? It starts with the name variable, okay? So when the loop takes its first loop, what Sarah is stored in name. So name is going to be equal Sarah. So when the loop runs, the output for the first time the loop runs is going to be something like this. My name is Sarah. Okay. Next, the second time the loop runs, because we're not out of names, we have two more. So it's going to run two more times. So again, Sarah is removed. You put Fatma instead. So now Fatma is inside the variable name. Now, the second time the loop runs, the loop is going to say, my name is Fatma. Okay? That's the second time it runs. After it runs for the second time, you want to you want it to run for the third time, which in this third time, it's going to be, we're going to remove Fatma from the variable and we're going to put Rawan in the variable. Now, when it runs for the third time, it's going to be, my name is Rawan. Okay? And then, do you write done or fi? You write done. For the if statement, you end it with fi, and then for the for loop, you do done. What do you mean by unlimited? Okay, it's clear. And then, any questions about this concept?
When you put the things in the variable name, are we using single quotations?
What do you mean? Like
For
the
name,
in the list?
yes.
Oh, it can be any. I don't think it makes a difference. If it does, please tell me, but I genuinely don't think it does.
Okay.
Okay. Can you solve lab 10 question 3? Let me take a look. And then in the meantime, while I read the lab question, can you guys if you guys have any question about this, let me know. Oh, all right. Then, Anud, how about I go back to that at the end of the session? Is that okay?
Sarah,
Yes.
if you run the same code, okay, it shows on or everything in just one line.
What do you mean?
Like I typed the same code that you did for us right now on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Everything like there's only one statement that says my name is uh, everything Sarah, Fatma, Marwan, all in one line. It's not looping over time.
Like it doesn't go to the next line?
Yes, it's not looping. Like yes, it's not looping.
Like, I mean, it is looping because the names are showing up, but it's just not going to the next line, right?
Yes, yes.
You're gonna need to use slash n, and then with the echo, you need to use
Dash E.
yeah, dash e.
Okay.
All right. So we just make an alteration here. Dash e. I'm pretty sure, and then slash n, which is forward slash. Oh no, it's not the double quotes. It was the slash n. All right. Any questions about this?
No, it's still showing the same result.
Same result.
Yes.
Can you try with double quotations?
Okay. Same result.
If it's a single quotation, yes, it will show that. Salah. Can you explain the shift command? Yes, I'll explain the shift command. Marwa, I'm not sure. Can you send me your code in the chat? I'll take a look at it. I'll run it in my virtual machine. I'll check. All right.
Okay. Yes.
Um, what if we put Sarah, Fatima, and Rawan in a variable and then we call it?
If you call the variable every time,
I mean, like, for example, we put for name in, like, Sarah, Fatima, and Rawan.
mm-hmm.
We put it in a variable, okay? For example, names is equal to Sarah, Fatima, and Rawan. And then we call the variable. You got me?
you call the variable and then it calls each one in the variable, or does it call them together? Lena, I would think it would
Together.
call them together.
Yeah, together.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do here is separate them into three sentences instead of having them together, like come out all together at the same time.
Hmm,
Yeah.
got it.
All right, Marwa, just send me your code. I'll take a look at it at the end of the session just to see what's going on. All right, but the main idea is that the for loop is going to go through each name and put each name in a separate sentence. Same line or not, it's going to be three names. Is the session recorded? No, the session is not recorded. Actually, about the recording, since it seems like a lot of students want it, it's going to be brought up to the other past leaders and the person who's in charge of us. And inshallah, maybe next semester we'll start doing that. If they're in a variable, it will work. Marwa, could you check that? If you put in a variable, it works? Okay. Let me actually take a look now, just to see what's going on.
You must not put it slash e and e and n. It's working, but the brackets in Sarah, Fatima, and Rawan, you remove it to work it.
Oh, remove the quotations?
Yes, the quotation and slash e and n. It's working.
It's working without the quotations. Okay. All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so apparently there's the answer. If you remove the single quotation in the list, it goes away. Zoom into the whiteboard. If the whiteboard is not clear, you guys can join it. Hold on, I'll send you guys the link just to open it. Then you can full screen it and do what you need to. Right, there it is. All right, that's another way to do it with variables, I guess. It's worked. Okay, that's good. All right. So do loops make sense? For loops as a list? Any questions about the loops? No questions. Okay. And then, so we're done with this loop. Let's move on to using the for loop as a counter. So when we want to use the for loop as a counter, this is what the syntax should look like. One moment. Okay, so the syntax is going to look something like this. First, we're going to start with for, and then we're going to open two brackets. Inside the brackets, we have three things we need to have. Number one, the variable which we're going to use to count with. Number two, we need a condition. And number three, we need a way to add to the variable so that it actually counts. Okay? So first things first, the variable. We can name it anything. Most people use I I is kind of the standard for counting, but you can use whatever variable name. This is a normal variable. You can call it, you can do whatever you want. Okay. Just keep in mind that the I variable, it can only be called inside the for loop. Okay, I'm gonna get into that a little more after I write the for loop. Just remind me. Okay, so let's start. We start with a variable, which in this case it can be k is equal to 1. Okay, and then we separate these three things with a semicolon. After that, we're gonna say, as long as k is less than 4, which means that the for loop is gonna run as long as k is less than 4. So since it starts at 1, it's gonna run a total of 3 times. All right. And then after, if it's k is less than 4, we need to add to k so that it actually counts. Because if we don't add the addition, I mean, k is just gonna go on forever and it's not gonna add anything to it. We'll never get to 4. So k and then plus plus. And then you close these two and then you say do. Then you type your commands. You can do anything with these commands. For example, if you want to echo something, you want to say hello, or you could list things, or you could, I mean, you can do anything really, any command in the middle. After this, you type done. Right? Right. So what's this gonna do? It knows that it's at number 1, right? So first loop is gonna be k is equal to 1, and it's gonna echo 1 hello here. Zain? Second loop, k is going to be equal to 2. It's going to give us another hello. Third loop, k is going to be equal to 3, and it's going to give us another hello. The fourth time, because k becomes equal to 4, it stops here. Why does it stop here? Because of the condition we put. The condition is checked every time an increment happens, okay? And keep in mind, the increment happens after the commands inside the for loop are executed. All right? Okay. Any questions about this?
What's the ls-l for?
It's just like a example command. I'm just saying that you can do anything inside the for loop.
This is usually for listing, yeah?
Yeah, it's for listing like
Okay.
the files and directories and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. What do you mean by list? It's gonna print up to 3, and it's gonna stop. It won't print the 4th time, because we said as long as it's less than 4. So when it becomes 4, 4 is not less than 4. Because it's that way, it's not gonna run the 4th time. It's only gonna do it 3 times and it's gonna stop. Yes, the k++ adds 1 each time. Like if it's k is less than or equal to 4. Is that what you mean, Noor? Okay, so you would say k is less than or equal to 4. That way. Can we do k-eq1? So you want to say k is equal to 1? To be honest, I'm not completely sure if it would work in like inside this for loop, inside the counter. I never tried it. I always just go with this method, and it's the standard one. Feel free to check it, but I'm not sure. Can we use it in this way for a counter? Yes. So Reem, remember when we talked about the list of names where it's Fatma, Sarah, and Rawan? You can just replace the list of names with your range. But the range inside the for loop as a counter does not work, as far as I know. When do we use the curly bracket for the loop? So you only use the curly bracket when you're using the for loop as a list, not as a counter. Okay? So when you're using it as a list, the list you give to the for loop, it can either be names or like words and stuff like that, or it can be a range of numbers, which can be done with the curly brackets. Okay, this is just the second way of doing a for loop. Does that make sense? Okay, is that clear, Nafisa? Oh, I only put ls-l as an example. So like it's just an example that you can put any commands in the for loop, it's gonna work.
Sarah, if we take an example of the first one that you showed us, the does the file exist or the directory exist? In that command, can we like list it?
Sorry?
I said in the example that you gave us,
Mm-hmm.
whether the file or the directories exist. In
What do you
that,
mean
af
the file that you chose exists?
no, no, you showed us a code, right,
Yeah.
to check whether the file exists or not,
Yes.
or the directory exists or not. Yes.
Yes. So
In
to
those,
say
if,
like dash e and then the file name,
yes.
right?
So if it does exist after the echo, we can use the listing. Yeah, if you want the lists.
Yes, you can use any commands in the loops or in the if else. It all works.
Cool.
All right. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. And Zayn, any more questions? No more. All right, let's move on to the next thing.
When I
Oh.
use counter, it will give me the same result as this result.
What do you mean?
Like if I put 4 counter in curly brackets 1 to 4, it will give me the same results.
So you would type 4 counter in, and then you type a range.
Yes.
I think it's gonna go from 1 to 4 instead of 1 to 3. I'm not completely sure though. So you'd
So,
have to.
so can we just put 1 to 3 if they tell us 1 to 4?
Honestly, I would recommend just using this one, but I'm not sure if it would work. It really just depends on the question. So if you could give me a question, I'll give you a straight answer, but I would recommend just using this. For counter and 1 to 4. I mean, yeah, technically it would work. Yes, you would get the output you need. But I think it would go up to 4. So if they're only asking you for 3 times, you should put 1 to 3. But technically, yeah, it would work. All right? That's it. Any more questions? No problem. No more questions. So now we finished. When do we know when to use exit? To be honest, so far as I've seen in the labs, they only tell like so far they tell you when you need to use exit. So I'm not sure if there's any situation where you would have to know yourself. Yes, if they ask you to do it 5 times, you make the counter to 6. Or you can do something like this. You can do k is less than or equal to 5. That way the 5 is included because of the equal to. Okay? Or you can do it as less than 6. Okay? Makes sense? All right. So let's talk about shift. And then since we're talking about for loops right now. So with shift, let me actually open the example up. If someone has the that one example of shift in the labs, please paste it in the chat. Okay, what does the trap command do? The trap command does one thing. You know when a loop or yani, your script stops working sometimes and then you do control C? The trap command does one thing. When you do trap, instead of the loop just closing, when you do control C, it actually gives the user or whoever's working on the script kind of feedback on what happened. So like you would have a function written in the script at the start, and the function can be of any name. For example, let's call the function hi. Okay, so your function hi, maybe it will echo something like, "Hello, you are using this script wrong," or like something like, "Hi, the script broke at line number this one," and then maybe it would print the script name or like what the script does. So it's just gonna give you some general information about the script and the fact that you know your script stopped. And then, so when you would use the trap command, let me actually open the syntax up just to make sure this is accurate. Okay, so you would type trap, and then you would have the function name here. So our function name is hi, so we'll put hi, and then semicolon, and then in the example I have, they used exit2, and then you can also provide some exits it can exit with. So 1, maybe 2, 3, 15. These are the ones I have. Okay, what do these exits mean? I'm not sure. I think Marwa knows the command to show what they mean in the command line. Marwa, if you could type it in the chat or say it to them, please do. And yeah, where can I use the trap command? Generally for the trap command, they're going to like tell you to use it. So I think it's in lab 8. So if you open lab 8, you're gonna see, hold on, I'll read it out to you. And then in lab 8, they tell you set a trap to exit. Remember, cannot trap on kill 9. So they literally tell you what you need to type, and then they say trap, trap, exit, exit 2. Maybe they will ask you in the question something like, if the user exits using control C, make sure they get some feedback on the fact that the script stopped working, or something like that, something along those lines. What do you mean by high function? Yeah, the function called hi is just an example. Okay, it's kind of messy. I'll just retype it just in case. So it's function. And then the name is gonna be hi. Okay, it can be any name. We should do the entire scripting question of lab 8 so we can get more insight. I mean, since there's already explanations done by Miss Maliha, I would rather not do that and actually focus more on like specific questions you guys have or explaining the basic idea. And then for the labs, do you guys have Miss Maliha's videos? They're actually really good. If you want, I'll send you the link. Okay, does the trap command make sense? Okay, I'll redo the trap command. Let me just send the Miss Maliha YouTube channel. Okay. Yep. Thank you, Mazen. Okay, let's talk about trap again. So the main function of trap, let's actually write an example script. Okay, I'm gonna type out a question. For example, write a script that echoes your name, age, and just your name and age. Okay, and then give the user feedback if they exit the script using Control C. Now this isn't exact wording. Okay, feedback is also kind of wrong in this situation. But anyway, you get the idea. The idea is we need to notify the user, okay, user, something went wrong. So how would we type this script? First of all, we start all scripts using #bang /bin /bash. Make sure you guys don't forget this one. And then we start typing. So we want to write a script that echoes your name and age. Let's say we have a variable, it's called name, and then the name is equal to Sarah, and then age, our age is equal to, for example, 20. Okay, now we want to echo the name and age. We could say echo my name is Nick and I am age years old. So the output would be my name is Sarah and I'm 20 years old. By the way, here's a tip for the exam. If you're typing commands in the script, obviously if you're not using variables, because you can't use variables in the normal terminal, type the commands in the terminal first, make sure they work, and then put them in the script. Okay, so my name is Sarah and I'm 20 years old. And then the second part of the question says give the user feedback if they exit the script using Control C, which I think is exit 2. So first, let's write a function. What if we put $1, $2? That would work, Nafisa, if we were passing it as parameters. But that is very valid. We can do that. All right? We just would have to put them here. Okay. So now that we're talking about the function and that we need to notify the user, first let's make a function. We're going to call the function trap. What do you mean, Anud? Variables do work. Oh yeah. So in the terminal, you can't type like variables and then call the variables because that takes more than one line. And in the terminal, you can only type one line of like code. So you can only type like, for example, ls-l or echo. My name is Sarah. You can't type my name is $Sarah because my name is $name because that would require you to define a name before. And you can't do that in the terminal because like it needs more than one line. Does that make sense? Okay, so back to the function trap. So we're using this trap again. Keep this in mind. Trap is only used to notify the user. It is just a notification. Without trap, we can still exit scripts using Control C. All right. So we're notifying the user. We want to say, for example, hello user, your script broke. Echo, fix it now. Okay. For example, let's say we want to do that. Now we want to say we want to add the trap into our script in the case where we need to use the trap. 1 second. And then you would type the trap command. Okay, so the trap command starts with trap. After you type trap, between single quotation marks, you can refer to a function and you can give it an exit. So in this case, our function name is trap. The name can be anything, by the way. Okay, so in this case, it's trap, and then we're basically saying if the trap happens, run this function first and then close the script. All right, and then after the trap, after we finish the function, we want to exit on exit 2, which I'm not sure what exit 2 does, but I think it's Control C. Then we also want to give this trap, other signals that it can exit through. So 1, 2, 3, or 15, or whatever. What does the function have an end command? I don't think it does, Reem. Let me check, but I don't think it does. Yeah, I don't think it does. Does the okay? What does trap do though? So trap basically gives the user the chance to gives the person who wrote the script the chance to notify the the whoever is using the script if they're using Control C, basically giving the message before they close the script. That's what it does. That's the job of trap, the trap command. Why did you put 2 then? What do you mean by 2? What is the 1, 2, 3, 15? As far as I know, 1, 2, 3, 15, and these other numbers, they're basically like, you're basically telling trap, okay, you don't have to just do this on exit 2. You can do them on other kill signals or exit signals. So it can be done on 1, 2, 3, or 15. You kept something after the 2. What do you mean? The signal will be there in the question, most likely, yeah. But if you can't get to the signal, Marwa pasted the way to find the signals in, yeah, there it is. The way to find the signals in the terminal. Yes, I'm not sure what you mean. The single quote after trap exit 2, is that what you mean? Yeah, so the quote basically ends what you need to do with the trap. That's kind of the syntax. Mariam, yes, you have to start the trap command with the word trap to say that, okay, if you exit, this is what's going to happen. Hussein, single and double quotes don't exactly work the same. There's only one difference. The difference is that if you use double quotes, whatever is inside them is going to execute. So, for example, let me actually show this to you. For example, if you use for double quotes here, and then you say my name, 1 second, I'll type it. That will be much easier. So if you have double quotes and you say my name is $name, and then you use single quotes and you say my name is $name. For the first one, your output is gonna look like my name is, for example, if you have Sarah stored in a variable called name, then it will show up like this. But in the second one, even if you have a variable with the name Sarah inside it, it would just do this, is $name. Nothing will change inside it. So only use the single quotes when you don't care about the things between the quotes. You just want them repeated or you want them saved or something like this. And you don't want anything ran inside them. Does that make sense? Is the trap just work with function? As far as I've seen it, you need, like, you're only using the trap function to notify the user. So you need to have a function up that says, okay, that echoes something to the user or shows them the warning or something like that. But I'm not sure if it just works with the function only. Did you put the function name in the trap command? Yes. 1 second, I'll put that back on the screen. Right. So this is this function name. Okay. And then this first trap is just us saying, okay, trap, you are now in the script. We're starting trap. No problem. Okay, makes sense?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Why do we put like since they only asked us for control C, which is exit 2, right? The signal 2.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we mention like 1, 2, 3, and 15?
To be honest, I don't know. So
Okay. Because my teacher, he said to me, I said, like, I asked him the same question and he explained, but I forgot because it was so complicated.
oh, so in this case, yani for us, we only put like I'm looking at the question right now. We only put 1, 2, 3, and 15 because in the question they literally gave you the syntax for trap. So if you open lab 8 and look at question number 4, they're giving you the output of trap. Like they're telling you what to write exactly. So that's why we put them there.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right. So we can name the trap function anything different. Yes. A function can be named anything you want. Okay. Any more questions? Yes. Oh, okay. That makes sense, Hussein. I should have changed the name then. It would have been much clearer. Okay. No more questions. Like if you do Control C. Okay. Do you guys want to move on to the next thing? All right. Did we go over shift yet? Did we? No, we didn't. Okay. So let's go over shift before we continue since we're on the topic of for loops right now. Okay. Last time I explained shift, I messed up, but this time, hopefully I don't. All right. So as far as I remember, the shift command looks like this. The purpose of shift is, for example, you're running a script, okay? Okay, and you're passing parameters to the script. So maybe you're passing like names. So you'd say Mazen, Reem, Sarah, Rawan, whatever. Okay. Next, you want to go through these list of names one by one. There's multiple ways to do this. Probably the easiest way is using a for loop. But if they want you to use the shift command, you can use it to go through them. But the idea of shift here is different than for. For goes through them one by one. Okay, it doesn't care about their placement. The shift command can only be used when we're trying to access the first parameter. So what does shift do? When we put shift, after the first parameter is accessed and the loop is done and it goes back again, before it stores reem in the new place, it removes the first name. And then now reem is the first name. After it loops one more time, reem is removed, Sarah is now the first name. After it loops one more time, again, remove Sarah, goes back to Rawan as the first name. That's the idea of shift. Basically, shift, it literally shifts the names to the left by one place. Okay, then the names or the list or the numbers or whatever. Okay, it's shifting them. Makes sense? So I'm gonna go over it. No, okay. Okay. Yes, I'll put it in code. So let's say we have four. Yes, I will show it in code. For name. Elias, I think you sent code yesterday. Could you send it again? Just so I make sure I don't make the same mistake. Okay. So for name, it was for shift. And then for name in, and then for example, $1. So the first one. Oh, okay. So for name and $1. So for the name, that is the first parameter we're passing. We want to مثلا do echo, and then we are going to echo the name. So $name. After we echo the name, we want to shift it. After we're done shifting the name, خلاص, we're done. Okay? This is gonna be your code inside the file. Now we're talking outside the file. Outside the file, you're gonna type // the script name. And then obviously because you're accessing parameters, you're going to give it parameters. صح? So the parameters can be anything. Here we're using the example of name. It can be anything, numbers, letters, whatever. Okay? So let's do names. Let's do Sarah, Fatma, and Awan. All right? So when we run this in the terminal, after we type this, this is what's going to happen. The first time the for loop runs, we're accessing the first parameter, صح? In this case, our first parameter is Sarah. So Sarah will be stored in name. And when Sarah is stored in name, the output is going to be echo $name, which is, it's going to say Sarah. Right? That's the first loop. خلاص, it's done with the echo command. Now it moves on to the next thing, which is the shift command. The shift command is going to, one second. The shift command is going to delete Sarah from the list. And now the second time it loops, because we still have names, Fatma is going to be the first name. So now Fatma is stored in one. Fatma is the first one. So it's being accessed as the first one. Because it's the first one, it's going to be stored in name. And then when the script runs the first command, which is echo in this situation, it's going to go Fatma. That's going to be your output. Okay? And then after it's done echoing the name, it's going to move to the shift command. What's the shift command going to do again? Shift is going to delete Fatma and then move Rawan to the next side. So we're going to get Fatma, we're going to delete her. خلاص. Rawan is the first one now. Because Rawan is the first one, and then now again, it's going to loop one more time, same thing. Rawan is the first parameter. So the first parameter is stored in name. We are echoing name. When we echo name, the output will be Rawan. And then after the output is Rawan, we move on to the next command, which is shift. Shift happens, Rawan is deleted. Do we have any more names? No more names. خلاص, the loop is finished. While $hash echo the first one. Okay. Then that's another way to do it with a while loop. So let me remove this and I'll show you guys how to do it with a while loop, which is the example that's in your labs. Okay, so in a while loop, same idea. Don't let this part confuse you. Basically, this part is doing one thing. It's checking, as you know, this is the number of arguments. So we're just making sure that there's arguments. We're saying that if the number of arguments is not equal to 1, so let me type a bunch of arguments. And then I'm going to say Sarah, Fatma, Awan. Okay, so as long as the number of arguments is not equal to 1, we will do all these things. Okay, and it's just going to keep going one more, over and over and over. So let's start. First, it's going to check. So how many arguments do we have? 3. So they're not 0. خلاص, this is done. We're going to start running. And then Then it's gonna echo the first parameter, which in this case is Sarah. Okay, it echoes Sarah. خلاص, the output says Sarah. After that, we move on to the next thing, which is shift. What does shift do? Delete Sarah. خلاص, Sarah is removed. Then, 1 second. Then after Sarah is removed, Fatma is the first one. When Fatma is the first one, we're gonna go to Fatma. It's gonna echo as the first one. After it echoes, it's gonna shift. خلاص, we gave it the output. Now it's time to shift it. Once it's shifted, we remove Fatma. Rawan is now in place of Fatma. So again, it's going to do the same thing. Rawan is going to be the first one. It's going to echo Rawan. After it echoes Rawan, it's going to shift one last time. خلاص, Rawan is removed. And then it's going to go done. Now we have no more names in the list. Why? Because, okay, hold on. We remove Rawan, صح? How many arguments do we have now after Rawan is removed? 0. So now, because every time the while loop loops, it's going to check the condition you give it here. 1 second, this is getting kind of messy, just so you guys can see it properly. And then, so it's going to check the condition you gave it here. The condition here is that the number of variables is not equal to 0. Once Rawan is removed, the number of variables is equal to 0. So because of that, the loop just exits. It goes to done. خلاص. Okay? Does shift make sense? Okay? All it does is it goes to the next thing. Can I do it with a for loop? Yes, you can do it with a for loop. The better way to do it. Okay, so if we're using a for loop for shift, then using shift is kind of invalid. And you can always just do the same thing that shift does using for. But if you do have to use shift, which if you do have to use the for loop, which I'm not sure if this works, لأن the while example is the one that's in the labs. I'm not sure if the for one works. I'm gonna show you the code I just wrote. Check if it works. If it doesn't, ignore it. Just use this one. Yes, I'll go back to the other code. Double check if it works. I'm not completely sure. Didn't check this code. Instead of for name and $1, try to switch it up for name and $star instead. Check it with $star. Okay, does $star do that? Does it work? Probably is gonna work. Then you're accessing all of them. Does it work, Elias? What does $star do? Okay, $star does one thing. If you do $star, you're accessing all of the parameters. So this basically means this one, and this one. So all 3.
It does work. It's working.
Okay, great. So it works. You can use it as a for loop. You can use it as a while loop. The while loop is the one in the lab. The for loop is the one here. The only issue I had at the start, which is why I switched this with $star, If we do $1, we're trying to access a list of names in $1, which that's not the case because we only have one name, which it's not gonna work. Is it not the same as $hash? No, Maryam, $hash only counts the number of parameters. So the output of $hash would be 3 in this case because 1, 2, 3. The output of $star though is gonna be Sarah, Fatma, and Rawan. Okay, keep this in mind. Don't confuse them. $@ I think that also stands for all parameters, but I'm used to using $star. Check $@ though. I'm not completely sure.
$@ also works, gives the same result as this.
Oh, all right, great. So $@ is the same thing as $star. Okay. Any more questions about this? All right. So no more questions. I can close this. Okay. Do you guys need a break?
No, it's cool. You can just keep on doing it.
All right. So $hash shows the number. It tells you the number of parameters. So if you have // script name, and then you have 1, 7, or just a bunch of numbers. Okay. It just counts the number of parameters for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you do $hash for this script, it's just going to give you 5. Okay. No problem. And then we're done with shift. We're done with trap. And we're done with the concept of functions. Does anyone have any issues with the concept of functions? Can I explain Lab 10 theory? Lab 10 theory? I thought Lab 10 was practical. In this session, I was planning on only doing practical, but if you do need help with the theory, I'm happy to explain it. Okay, Lab 10 is mostly theory. Then we're going to go over it. Okay? Can we do it at the end of the session? All right. Put that in mind. And say, does anyone have any issues with the concept of a script and calling a script? Or like has any questions about it? Okay, no questions about that. And say, we're good to go to unit 9 and 10. What do you guys think? Do you want to go to unit 9 and 10? Cron tab and that stuff?
Yes, please do.
Okay, let's move on to these then. So no while loops, no untils. Okay, before we do move to that, I want you guys to be familiar with one thing. Okay, let's say you get a question, okay? And you might get questions that are like while loops inside if statements. Are you guys comfortable with that concept? Like you have to put a while loop within an if statement. And then let's cover that, and then we're gonna move to unit 9 and unit 10 because it might be on the exam. Okay, let's start. The question, I'm gonna give you guys a simplified question. Yeah, that's the hardest part, Hussein. That's actually the hardest part. And then Let's write a question. For example, let's say a user is going to pass a file name to a script. If the file, oh, okay. If the file is a directory, echo this is a directory 5 times. Otherwise, echo this is not directory. Echo this is not a directory and list the files. Okay, this is an example question. How would you solve this? First of all, you're going to keep in mind that the user is going to pass a file name. So we're going to have to use $1. Okay, this is the first thing to keep in mind. So when we're running the script, it's going to look something like this. It's going to look like /script name. And then we're going to have a file name. Our file name is going to be file name in this situation. Okay. Now, within the script, when we're working on it, this is what the script is going to look like. So first of all, do this, and then move on to the rest. So first things first, if the file is a directory, echo, this is a directory 5 times. So first of all, we have an if-else here, صح? So you do if, 2 square brackets, and then you check if the file is a directory. So how do you do this? You type -d, and then after -d, you put the file name that the user gave to us. So since we're accessing it, we're going to do $1. Okay. If it's that case, do, and then we're going to write the command. What's the command? If the file is a directory, echo, this is a directory 5 times. This is where the loop happens. Now, there's 2 ways to do this in the exam. You can either type 5 echo commands. Okay. You're gonna get you're gonna get the mark, okay, but it's better if you use a loop inside the if statement. All right, if you type 5 echo statements, okay, you got it to work, خلاص, it's fine. And then, so how do you put a loop inside an if? We just type the loop. Okay, so in this case it's a for. Why is it a for loop? Because we know exactly how many times we need it to go. We need it to go for 5 times. Now there's 2 ways to do this. We can do this in a range, like Ilyas said in the chat, for I in I to 5, or we can use a counter. What do you mean, Hussein? All right. So I'm going to use this the same. I'm going to do this the same way Ilyas used it. So for I in, and then 2 curly brackets, I 1 to 5. All right. For I 1 to 5, we're going to echo, and then we're just going to type, this is a directory. Okay. 1 second. If ends with then, 4 starts with do. Yeah. Sorry, I keep mixing them up. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, Ilyas, you can use both ways. You can use this way, or you can use the counter way. Okay, both of them work. And then after this, we're echoing. This is a directory 5 times. After that, we're done with the for, so we type done. And then the if, it doesn't end here. Why? We need to do the else. صح? So else. And then the else is just a normal else. This is not a directory. And then that's it. And then you do fi to finish it.
Well, Sarah, if in the question they ask us to pass a file name or check the parameters or something, those are all the same thing, yeah?
If they ask you to pass a file name or check a parameter,
Yes.
yes.
Like in this we use $1, and or if they ask us to like give arguments to the script.
Yes, those are the same thing. Parameters, passing a file name, or arguments, same thing.
And when do we use read specifically if they're asking a question? Like, no, where do
Read,
we use the script? Yeah, read command in the script.
you use read when they ask you to prompt the user. So,
Okay.
one second, I'll put this here just to show you what a prompt looks like. All right, and say what is for I in 1 to 5. Okay, Mazen, remember when we talked about how we can use for in a loop? So we said for, and then we have a variable name, and then we have the range which is from 1 to 5. From 1 to 5 means it's gonna do this 5 times. صح? So first time, it's I is gonna be equal to 1. It's gonna echo this, and then it's gonna go one more time. It's gonna go 5 times where this says this 5 times for us, and then it's gonna stop and move on to the next thing. When do we use elif? You use elif if you have another condition. So for example, we would use elif in this situation if, let's add to the question. If we said, if the file is a file, echo, this is a file, 5 times. Okay? How would this look in the code? You would say elif and then 2 square brackets. And then in the square brackets, you're going to say -f, $1, and then do, oh, sorry, then, and then you're gonna add another loop here because it's 5 times. Okay, and then when you add another loop, you're just gonna say this is a file. One second, I'll remove all of these things just so it all makes sense. Okay, so you only use elif if you have more conditions to check for. It's like the one, yes, Mazen, it's the same thing. From 1 to 5 is the same as 1 is less than 6. Same thing. Okay, thank you, Hassan, for putting the code in the chat. Okay? Does this make sense, using a loop inside an if statement? Yes. Knowing the commands before the midterm is going to help you a lot after the midterm. I have a few commands that I've seen a lot in the labs that I would recommend you guys go over them just one more time. You have WC, sort, tar, what else? Process management, PS, top, DU and DF. And then, yes, grep, yes, definitely grep. Okay? How do we use what? Oh, I don't know what sec is. Yes. No, I don't think you're mixing. That's it. No problem. Okay. Does the question, does the answer make sense, guys, for this one? Do we move on to the next step? Okay, take your time. Okay, Mazen, are you done? I have no idea what sec is. If they wanted to stop with second iteration, 1 second. Let me check the man page, Lulu. 1 second. Okay. Um, Reem, who told you guys that there's just gonna be one script? Was it a tutor? All right. Well, if in the case where it's one script, okay, if it's one script, then yes, the cron and log and all that stuff, it's not gonna be like theory. It's gonna be practical, but you have to just know it in Moodle. And you're not gonna have access to terminal. Oh, I think I know what you guys mean. Are you talking about adding two numbers?
Expression is basically saying to the terminal that whatever after the expression command, it's a mathematical operation. So it will like depends on what you put in the يعني line. It will either sum it or whatever it does. But this is a mathematical equation.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And then let's go over the read command before we move on to the other lessons. Okay. So let's say a question asks you guys, مثلا, prompt a user to enter their name, their username, مثلا, and أو مثلا their name and age. Okay. So if you want to prompt the user, you're gonna use the read command. I'm not gonna write the entire script. I'm just gonna write يعني just something that makes sense. So if you want to prompt someone, you have to give them a prompt message. A prompt message is just an echo to say, please type your name. And then after it, you have the read command, and you have to assign a variable to the read command so that it stores the data in it. So in our case, because we're storing a name, you can name the variable anything you want, but it's better if it's something relevant. So read name. Now that we're reading the name, with the read command, the special thing about it is it stops the terminal, stops the entire script until you type a name or type whatever, and then type enter. Like tap enter. After that, it's gonna store whatever you wrote here inside name. And then you're gonna be able to access name throughout the script. Okay? But if they say anything about a prompt or asking the user to input anything, it's gonna be read. Okay? If they say anything about passing something to the script, it's just them putting them as arguments or parameters. Okay? Does that make sense? Any questions about this? Okay. Oh, okay. Is this about adding numbers? زين. I'll go over this now. Second. And then when you want to increment anything, by the way, this is based on Mrs. Mariha's videos. Okay, if you want to increment to something, first of all, صح, you need variable names to store the things you add. Yes, I did go over these things. I did go over the slides you told me about. We're gonna go over that. Don't worry. Okay. So, yes, you would have two variables, which would be number and sum, and then it would start by being equal to 0, for example. And then when you want to sum things to it, because you're updating number, okay, you're gonna do something like this. You're gonna do $, brackets, and then the $sign of sum plus the $sign of number. Okay, you're gonna close the two brackets. That's how you add a number. Okay, so you're gonna call the first one, you're gonna call the second one, and then you're gonna run this entire code, and it's gonna all save into sum. I think you need to equate it to some bad. I'm not completely sure. You'll have to check the video. Why do we write 0? Because you need to initialize the variable to something, and if you're adding, you generally start with 0. Can we use expr? To be honest, I remember that command, and I tried using it when, like, I saw it in a lab, and I tried using it, but it was broken, and it wouldn't work for me, so I'm not sure if it would work. If it works for you, خلاص, it's fine. You can use it. Exactly, just like that, Hussein. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Does this make sense? All right. زين. We went over quotation marks, صح? Everyone understands quotation marks, or does anyone need them explained one more time? Okay, so quotation marks are finished. And then, you guys don't need help with proper commenting, صح? You know the commenting template, you can use it. Okay. This is done. And then, now we only have two things. We have the cron tab practice, we have the lock files, locking the files in cron tab. And then we have the theory stuff, which we might cover, and some lab 10 questions. Other than that, we're done unless you guys have any more questions. So let's start with locking files, okay? Okay, Ala, are you there? Okay. By the way, I'm not sure if your name is a guy's name or a girl name, so I'm sorry if you're a guy and I'm calling you Ala. Very sorry. Okay, so let's start with locking the files. Let's say you have a script, okay? And in the situation, okay, great. In the situation they gave us in the slides, by the way, I'm talking about lesson number 9, chapter slide number 25. This is where they talk about this. So they say if you have a cron job, and like a script that runs every minute, sometimes the scripts have issues, and they would run multiple ones at the same time, and it would just cause some issues in the system. How do you avoid this? So my understanding of this is you use something called a lock file. The basic idea of a log file, no, the meeting is not recorded. The basic, it will be suggested to the PASS team later, so that, next semester we'll start doing it, but this one's not recorded. Okay, so if we want a file to not work, this is going to be in Unit 9. If we want a file to not work unless the previous one stopped, we use something called a log file. How does the log file look? So let's say you have a bunch of commands. Okay, you have some for loops, you have some if, else, all that stuff. And you want to make sure your script is not running with another script. Or you want to make sure while this script is running, another one is not going to run. How are you going to do this? You're going to use an if else. Okay? So we're going to start with an if, and we're going to create a file called a lock file. So the first if statement for us would be something like this. It would be if, and then we're going to check if the lock file exists. So maybe lock file.txt. For example, it can be any kind of file, I think. Not very sure. So lock file.txt. If it exists, and we're going to use -e to check that. I'm explaining that right now, Mazen. And then if it exists, then blah, 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 you're going to do all your code. No, actually, no. If the log file exists, then you're going to say echo, for example, this file cannot execute, for example, because another script is running. Then our else statement is going to be the rest of our code. So your else is going to be else if the file doesn't exist. Because if it exists, we're going to do this. But if it doesn't exist, we're going to, first of all, we're going to create the file. So we're going to do touch lockfile.txt. And then blah, blah, blah is going to be our code. Like whatever we want to say, we're going to put it in this blah, blah, blah part. After we're done with all of our code, we need to make sure we remove the lock file. Why? Because after the code is finished, خلاص, we don't need the lock file anymore, and the script is going to end now. It's finished. So we remove the lock file, we delete it, the file we made in this case, and then we end the code. Okay. What does this have? Yani what kind of effect does this have? Let's say you have a list of cron jobs, and then you have this script and you want it to run every single minute. One of these scripts that was supposed to run, for example, at minute number 5, it broke. Okay, but keep in mind it made the lock file, the locked file, and so if the lock file exists, okay, we're gonna make sure the second time where this file runs or tries to run, because it runs every minute, it's gonna validate this. It's gonna validate the if else. صح? So the first if is if the log file exists, then we're just gonna say it can't execute and we're gonna exit. A good thing to do bad is to put exit after this. زين? But if the log file doesn't exist, خلاص, the queue is open, we don't have any issues running this file right now, it's going to create a log file. Why is it going to create a log file? So that if another file tries to run while this one is running, it's not going to be able to. And then at the end of the code, it's just going to remove the log file عشان شنو? عشان you get space for the other scripts to run. خلاص, this one is finished running. You don't need to stop the other ones from running anymore. And then the script ends. Does this make sense, Ara and everyone else? When do we use this? I'm going to be honest with you. Most likely, you're not going to use this in the exam. Okay, I've never seen it. But you will use this if they tell you, make sure that no other script runs while this script is running. Or like, if you're running the script multiple times, like every minute, for example, or every day, they could say in the question, they could say something like, make sure that when the script is running, no duplicates are run at the same time. So like no other scripts of the same one are running again. And then the log file is going to make sure this doesn't happen. Does that make sense, Khalid? No problem, Ara. Okay. Yes, lock file is just a name. The main idea is that it locks the ability to create another script of the same kind. Why? Because we're validating here. We're validating if it exists in this script. So a duplicate of this script is never going to exist because we're creating a log file. We're checking if there's a log file here, and then we have a log file created here. Okay. So the main idea is that it's just some kind of validation to stop duplicates. Okay. Any questions about this? Any questions? No questions? Is this clear? We move on to the next thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We do have a question. Okay. I'm going to paste your question, and then we're going to solve it. Okay. So I'm just going to. So what we're doing here is we're validating multiple things. So we're probably gonna need an if inside an if. So let's start. If a directory is there, let's add on to this question by saying the user passes a directory name. Okay, the user is gonna pass a directory and file name to the script. All right. So because the user is passing them, we can say that the directory name is gonna be $1. The file name is gonna be $2. Okay, let's keep this in mind. So first thing we're checking is if the directory is there. If the directory is there, so we're starting with the first if. We're gonna check -d, and then the directory is $1. If it exists, then we are going to check if a file exists. So that's gonna be another if. I'm gonna indent it, and then just so they look clear. Now we're gonna check if a file exists. Okay. So now that we're checking, we can say -f and then $2, because the file is the second one being passed to the script. Okay. If the file exists, 1 second, I'm forgetting the then. And then if both the directory and the file exist, let's say we need to, for example, echo something. We can say echo both directory and file exist. Okay. And then now here is the trick. The trick here is that you need to close the second if before the first if. So you're gonna say if you're gonna put the first else. It's gonna be else, which is if the file doesn't exist, because that's your else. Then you're gonna say, for example, create the file. So touch $2. And then you're gonna end your first if. Now you're back to you finished your second if. Now you're back to your first if. So now you can say if no, it's not if. It's gonna be else. So else, in the case that it doesn't exist, we're going to create which is mkdir and then $1. And then we're gonna end this. Let me just make sure I solved that correctly. Create them both. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, so mkdir $1 and then touch $2. Okay, because if the directory doesn't exist, then the file won't exist. All right, this is how we would solve it. So the idea here is that you just need to know how to space out your if statements just to make sure they make sense. So this is the second one to check for the file. This is the first one to check for the directory. So it's kind of like a box inside a box. What is dash E? Dash E checks if something exists. So they don't care if it's a file, if it's a directory, they just want to make sure it exists. Okay, Lulwa, that's the difference. Dash F checks two things. It checks if it exists and if it's a file. Dash D also checks two things. Checks if it's a directory and if it's a file. No problem, Reem. Okay? Any more questions? All right, let me read it 1 second. Does it run? Yes, I'm gonna send the question. Check if the file exists. Yeah, it looks like it would run. I'm just not sure about the exclamation marks, but generally, like the idea you have works. Like it makes sense. Also, I'm not sure about the quotation marks around the dollar sign, but yeah, they should work because everything inside them should run. Yeah, it looks fine. It's just that yours are separated, which is kind of a different idea than the one she did. But yeah, I would say it would work. Like it would give you the same output. Okay, let me send the question. All right. Okay, here's the thing with scripting and like coding in general, there's many ways to do one thing. So you can do it the way he did it, assuming it works, or you can do it the way I did it, assuming it works. As long as you get the right output, خلاص, you're good, you're fine. So maybe test out both methods, see what works for you best, what you find easier, and then just do that. That's it. So I'm gonna clear the screen now. We can move on to the next thing, which is cron tab. صح? Cron tab now. All right. So, 1 second. Did you guys get the website I sent you to practice cron tab? Did you guys receive it? Yes. Did you guys use it? Do you guys want to use it to practice now?
Oh, which one do you mean?
I sent a zipped file with a bunch of screenshots and one text file that has a link. I'll just send the link in the chat if you don't have it. Yeah, okay, there it is. So just click on that, it should work. And then the good thing about this is that it translates the cron jobs you make, like the timings you make, into actual sentences. So how about instead of just doing a bunch of cron examples in front of you guys can try it out for yourself. If you have any issues, tell me. Okay? Or do you guys want to practice with it like right now?
I think it's better if we practice right now.
Okay, so let's do that. Okay. Gonna stop sharing the Jamboard. Okay. Do you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. 1 second then. No, we don't type just run script name. You have to give it a schedule and then you type the path to the script. Preferably the full path. Okay, let's go over cron tab. And then there's an important idea if you're running a script. To be honest, I'm not sure. Let me double check that. I remember it as you should just put the path. If it's different for you guys, I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it's just putting the path. خلاص, it works. Okay, I'm gonna just put this to the side. Okay, do you guys see it? And then let's get started. So the number one issue that people have with cron tab is the day of the month and day of the week. The issue with the day of the month and day of the week is that if any of them apply, the script is gonna run, which is gonna cause some people some issues solving or putting the correct date on cron tab. Okay. The other issue is with day of the week, you might get confused because it starts from 0 instead of it starting from 1. Okay, so 0 is gonna be Sunday, 6 is gonna be Saturday. Okay, the rest of them are fine except for minute and hour. And then hour is in 24-hour format. Okay, again, because it starts from 0, it stops at 23. And then, so let's say we have a script. It's called script name, and we want to run the script every day at like 3 a.m. for example. Okay, so if you want to do that, let me just close this. If you want to do that, first you need to specify the minute. So we're just saying every day at 3 a.m. So because it's 3 a.m., no minute is specified. We just put start, which is any minute, doesn't matter, or 0 if you want it exactly. Actually, yeah, you should put 0. It's not stop. And then we're finished with minute. Now we go to hour. Because it's 24-hour format, 3 a.m. is just 3. Okay? Now we move on to day of the month. Since we want it to go every day, we put star. After we put star, how many months like on which months do we want it to run every day? Keep in mind you can put a range. For example, you can put Jan to December. You can do that. Or you can do like you can do just a month. You can just do Jan. Yes. Yes, Hussein. Okay? So let's say we want to run it every month, every day. So start. No, they're not going to ask you to specify seconds. They're going to be easy on you guys with the cron tab because it is kind of confusing. Can we write numbers and months? Yes, you can. Okay? Next, how many days of the week? We want it every day, so all days of the week. Okay? Now here's the nice thing about this. It's going to translate it to words for you. Okay? So at 3 every single day. And then let's have a more complex example. We want to run it exactly at the 1st of January of every year. Okay, so it's gonna be minute 0. The hour is going to be 0 again because we're on 24-hour format. The day is gonna be the 1st. The month is gonna be January, which is 1st also. And then the day of the week doesn't matter, it can be any day, so stop. So at 0 on day of month 1st in January. Okay? And then let's have another example. Let's say we want to run a script at 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4 a.m. every day. Okay? So we're going to start with minutes. The minutes are not specified. Let's say we want it at 1:30, 2:30, 3:30. So we're going to put it as 30. Then for hour, since we want to do it for multiple ones, we can do 1, 2, and for example 3. Using this comma just separates it. You can have 3 values. It's fine. Next, we have day of the month. Doesn't matter. We want it every day. So stop. Which month? Doesn't matter. Again, any day. Stop. Which day? Again, any day. So stop. So at minute 30 past hour 1, 2, and 3. So 1:30 a.m., 2:30 a.m., and 3:30 a.m. Is 1, 2, 3 correct for hour? Yes. So let's actually check the difference. Okay, so doing the range from 1 to 3 is going to do one thing. It's going to make the script run every 30 minutes. Okay, which is wrong. We want to run it at 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, which is 1 hour intervals. Okay? No, 1 to dot 3 doesn't work. That's a bash scripting thing. It's not a cron tab thing. With cron tab, again, this is the beauty of this website. You have like the values. You have the star, which means any value, this the comma, the dash for the range, and stuff like that. Okay, and then it also tells you like the allowed values for each one, which makes it easy. Okay, more practice, or does this make sense? No, you can't use it in the exam, unfortunately. You can use it to practice, and then it's going to be much easier on the exam. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about this? Oh, we're done with cron tab. Or do you guys want more questions? Don't we need to put slash? I'm not sure how to use slash, to be honest. So, I don't know. What main? What do you mean by main? Oh, what does it mean? Like the slash or the star? I'm not sure what the slash means, but the star means all values. But slash, I'm not sure. Here it says step values, which I'm not sure what that means. I didn't understand why it would run every 30 minutes. Hold on, I'll show you. So I only realized it would run every 30 minutes because when I typed it, it gave me the translation. So it says at 30 minutes past every hour from 1 through 33, which I think means every 30 minutes. So past every hour. So every 30 minutes, it's going to do it. Oh, wait, never mind. Never mind. That is wrong. It's not going to run every 30 minutes. It's going to run every hour. Okay. I made a mistake. It runs every hour, not every 30 minutes. So 1 to 3 works just the same as 1, 2, 3. These are the same thing.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
What if they asked to do a task which is like every 5 minutes in the same hour, run this specific cron job? How would it be?
Every 5 minutes
Yes.
in the same hour.
Yeah.
All right, let's try it. I'm not sure, but let's try. So every 5 minutes in the same hour. So let's do 1 a.m. Any day, any month.
Yeah, look, because here it will give you the time. Like at 1:05, it will run the script. But I want every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's why I think I don't know who wrote in the
You
chat,
should put
Oh,
which
slash.
is
star
the
manager.
star slash. I
Yeah.
think
Star
that's where
slash
you
five.
use it. Yeah,
Star slash.
yeah.
Star slash 5, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that does seem to work. I'm not sure what star slash does, but it looks like it does that like every 5 minutes. Thank you for writing it in the chat. Okay. Any more questions? About crontab? Okay. We said we're gonna go over lab 10 theory. Do I have to write 05 or just write 5? I think just writing 5 works bad. Let's see. Yeah, it works. Okay. Zay. I think we said we're gonna go over lab 10. Let me just make sure I can actually answer the question. Okay. How to do it though? How to choose the file I wanted to run? What's the step? Okay. So let's open this one. Okay, I'm gonna use this one as an example. So we added the date. صح Hassan? Now after we added the date, we want to give it the file we want to put. You would use at the end, you would use the absolute path, okay, which starts from home. So slash home slash I think for you guys it's like I don't know what it is. It's something.
It's
And
A,
then, huh?
A, and then your ID. The
Oh,
letter
okay, so
A.
it goes straight
Yeah,
to A. Okay.
yeah.
So straight to A, whatever your ID is, and then you run it to your script. So let's say script
Oh,
dot sh.
Johnson!
Oh my god. Okay. Then, so you just give it the absolute path and then it works. Does that make sense, Hassan? Okay. Do you have any idea how many lines of code we're gonna write since it's just one script? To be honest, I doubt it's just one script. But if it is one script, it's probably gonna be more than 10. Probably. I don't know though. I have no idea. Reem, it's better to use the absolute path just in case it doesn't work. Also to avoid using the wave sign and just put your ID. Is it gonna be just one question? Because it doesn't make sense. I'm not sure what the exam is gonna look like, so I can't really answer that. You guys are just gonna have to see for yourselves. Maybe let me know after the exam if it was just one question. Just gonna close this. Okay. Do you guys have any more questions about lab 10? Oh, not lab 10. Just everything. I'm out of things to talk about today. If you have any more questions, please type them. I'll answer them. Otherwise, you guys are free to go. Actually, before you go, I'm gonna send a survey link into the chat. This is the last survey you guys are gonna have to fill. And it's for the pass service. Okay. Let us know if there's anything you want different next time, next semester. or if you liked anything, you don't like it, just open the survey, answer the questions. And yeah, that's about all I have for you guys today. Good luck on your exams. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your hard work.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, just make sure you fill out the survey. Also, make sure if you want the sessions to be recorded, please type it into the survey so they can take it into consideration when we bring it up. Okay, because I noticed a lot of students want the sessions recorded. Okay. All right, no problem. Good luck on your exams. By the way, if you guys have any questions throughout the day, I'm going to be available. Just send me an email and we can set up a meeting and I'll explain whatever you want during the meeting. Okay? Go ahead, Mazen. What about Lab 10? Okay, for the first two questions, which are theory, I'm going to explain them. But for the third question, it's explained in Miss Maliha's videos, so you guys can go over and refer to that one. But for the first two questions, I can explain them. No problem, Hussein. Okay, do you guys want me to explain the first two questions? All right. So in Lab 10, the first question, let me share my screen. Okay, the first question says, modify syslog.conf. Create a copy of the syslog.conf file in your home directory. First of all, how do we copy? Again, using the cp command. Oh, hold on. One second. And so, we're going to copy the file using the cp command. We're going to say cp, and then if I remember the syntax correctly, it's the name of the file, which in this case it's syslog.conf, and then where you want it to go, I think. And then, so you would probably want it to go to your directory, so /home/ and then tilde and then slash, dear, whatever it is. And then, okay. Now you copied the file. Next, you want to modify the file so that the boot log files are saved to this place. And then, I don't have access to PuTTY, so I can't actually copy the file and look for it, like look inside the file. But since they asked you to change something, there's gonna be a clue as to where you need to look. For here, they're saying modify the file so that the boot log files are saved to this place. Since we asked them to be saved to this place, it's gonna, and you're gonna find a place that says like something that talks about where the log files are saved. And then under it, there's gonna be a place, you're gonna remove it and edit it to this one. Will you get questions like this in the exam? I don't know for sure, but most likely, no. You might get it as theory, maybe. But as like an actual question, I would doubt that they would do that. Try it out for yourself, make sure you understand it, but I would doubt there would be questions like this. Okay? For the second question, it says syslog.conf advantages. Answer the following question and then type your answer in this place. Do we study the theory from unit 1 to 10? I would recommend you do that. I would also recommend you go over all the commands, all of them, from first lesson to the last. Also start revising from unit 10 upwards, not from unit 1 and then downwards. Okay. What would be the benefit of having a consistent syslog.conf file across all Unix and Linux operating systems? I'm not sure of the exact benefit, but since they're talking about it being consistent across all Unix and Linux operating systems, we could say that if someone wants to use from